Management. Metal Management was actually a steel company in Newark, New Jersey. What they did is mark all the impacted steel with an M. This way they can collect all the impacted steel and bring it over to Metal Management. What they do when they collected all the impacted steel, well, the federal agency, the NIST, or the National Institute of Standards and Technology, which actually looks at building collapses and building fires, wanted to do a study to see exactly what happened. So after a 3-year study, what they conclude? Number one, all the fireproofing that was on the steel, all the impacted steel and the steel that got impacted by the plane, all of the fireproofing either burnt off or just knocked off. Number two, because of the impact of the plane, there's 47 inner core columns. Some of the inner core columns were severed. Number three, because of the jet fuel and oxygen, the heat actually weakened the steel. So you have the steel going around the towers, the floors are connected to them. As the floor started to sag and put pressure on the steel, since it was weakened, started to actually bow in like this until it bowed in, far enough where the floors came down and pancaked down on top of each other. So this is the 93rd to the 96th floor. Here's the South Tower. The South Tower was hit by hijack 175 between the 77th and 85th floor. Even though it got hit second, it came down first. Why? They concluded, number one, more weight on top of the tower. Number two, hijack flight 175, traveling at a faster rate of speed, severed more of the inner core columns. That is why the South Tower came down first. Now, for those of you who may be wondering, how do we know that this is a piece of impact steel and just not a piece of steel that happened at the collapse? Well, when the towers were first built, it was built like a jigsaw puzzle. Every piece had its own individual and distinct number on it. So if you actually found the number on the steel, look at the architectural design, and they can actually pinpoint the piece. So they know that this one came from 93 to 96. The other one on the north pool came from the 96 to 99th floor. And then, of course, when you look at this picture, you can actually see the fuselage and the wingspan. That is why they know the two Triton's when you first walked in. Those two Triton's were actually brother and sister. They stood side by side on the north tower by the east facade of the north tower. So here's the Triton's. They're actually paying homage to themselves, and they're looking to where they stood. So if anybody has any questions, just to let you know, the Triton's stood in these box columns. The Triton's did not start up on the the second level down or 2 stories down. They started 77 stories below ground, 70 feet below ground, and that is where they actually stood. And these are the pools here. The pools actually end a little bit inside there, but this is the actual perimeter of the building. Now, if you notice, the south pool, where the south tower is, you really can't walk around the whole south pool. The north pool or the north tower you can. Why can't you do it by the south tower? Because the fare train's tracks, or the train that comes from Jersey, runs alongside the east side of the pool or where the tower stood, so it wasn't feasible to move the whole foundation over. So that means if you go upstairs, the pools are not as wide as the towers. Technically, the middle of the pool is the middle of the building, but the towers were wider. Now, since that's a very important measurement, the width of the towers, there's a lot of visitors that came and worked in the towers and said, I thought the towers were wider. Well, they were. They marked that distinct measurement 2 ways on the plaza. One, if you look at the base of the new Tower 1, that base is the exact size as the original tower. Also, if you looked at the tree line going around the pools, that's the exact width of the towers. So in other words, if you had x-ray vision, stood on a box tower, and you look straight up, you'll see a tree. The pools end inside there. So if anybody has any questions about the plaza itself, the museum, anything, feel free to ask. If not, thanks for visiting. And just please, if you take photography, just don't use a flash. And when you go into the Star Collection exhibition, there's no photography at all.